Hello everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Low Code Corner. Every Monday morning we discuss about a very specific problem you might face when you develop a DaDaBIK application. Today we are going to talk about how to represent, update a field in a master details form, and in particular in the master form that depends on the information you have in your items. Okay, that's a question I've received a few times in the last weeks, so I think it's a good idea to make a video about it. So here we have a simplified invoicing system, and we have a table invoices containing the ID of the invoice, the date of the invoice, and the customer. And then we have an invoice items table containing the items related to a specific invoice. And each item has a specific ID, the ID of the related invoice, the product, and the price. So this is an invoice we made for the customer Anna, containing two items, a Galaxy Note with its price and an iPhone 11 with its price. So let's say that I want to add a field here, that is the question I've received, a field here representing the total amount, so a field to the invoices table representing the total amount of the invoice that should consider, of course, all the items. So first of all, adding a field to this table containing the total amount is not good database design. This is an information you can actually get from other tables, in particular from the invoices table. It's a field you have to keep updated. So this is not a good database design choice. But let's say you can live with that. How you can keep that field updated in your DaDaBIK application. So first of all, you have to add the field to the table, of course, and maybe assign the permission to the field to see it in the form. I'm not going to see that part because it's very, very easy. Okay, so yeah, I added the field to the table. So I think that some of you might think that you can use a calculated field here. So the field will be calculated according to the values you have here. But this is not a very good, this use case is not a very good candidate for calculated fields, at least as they are implemented in DaDaBIK current version 10.1 Manarola. Why? Well, with a calculated field, you can actually write your own function that basically computes the value of the field according to anything you need. So, well, you can use also the values you have in the items table. The thing is that a calculated field is updated only when you insert, update the correspondent form. So when you insert here, for example, and you save the form, then this field would be updated. But if I just insert a new item without updating the master form, for example, that field would not be updated, and this, of course, is a problem. So what's the solution? There is another way to get what you need by using hooks. The idea is when you insert, update or delete an item here, a hook is triggered, and a function update the value here according to the values you have in the correspondent items. And this is the code that you need. Let's talk about the code for insert and update first, because for delete the code is slightly different. So here we are saying that for the invoice items table, after an insert and after an update, we have to execute this function. The function receives in input the ID of the invoice item we have inserted or updated, and the query is the same in both the cases. We want to, maybe it sounds a bit complicated, but if you look into that, it's not complicated at all. So basically we want to update the invoices table, setting the total amount invoice equal to the sum. Here we have a subquery. Select the sum price invoice item. The price is a field of the invoice items table from invoice items, where ID invoice equal to. In the invoices item table, we have the ID of the related invoice. But we don't know the ID of the related invoice. What we get for a hook is the ID of the invoice item. But we can get the ID of the related invoices with another subquery. Select the ID invoice from invoice items, where ID invoice item equal to the ID invoice item that we are getting from here. This is a placeholder, and with the binding process later, we are going to substitute this placeholder with the actual ID invoice item. The rest of the code is the classic code you should use to execute a query. So let's see if it works. So now we have two products. Okay, let's, for example, change here the price of this product, 751. Okay, now the total amount is filled with the sum of these two prices. All right, and the same will happen if I insert a new item here. What about delete? Why is it different? So I can use a delete, an after delete hook here, and it will work. It will work. I mean, the hook will receive the ID of the invoice item I have deleted. But what is the problem? The problem is that I won't be able to retrieve the ID of the invoice, because if I execute an after delete hook, if I use an after delete hook, after having deleted that invoice item, that record wouldn't be available anymore. So I cannot get the ID invoice from a record that doesn't exist anymore, because it has been just deleted. So I have to use a before delete hook instead. But in this case, the query will be a little bit different. Why? If I leave the query like this, what is happening? So this part is going to work, because since the hook is before delete, the record will be still there, and I will be able to retrieve the ID invoice. All right. But the problem is here, because basically in the sum, I will consider also the item that I'm deleting. And this is not what you need. So only for the delete, you should use a different function, let's say function 2, that will be exactly like this one. So let's say we are doing the function 2 now, exactly like the previous one, but you need a little additional part here. You don't consider all the items, you consider all the items except from the item you are deleting right now. So, and ID invoice item different than, again, the placeholder ID invoice item that we will substitute, replace with this variable. Okay. Very last thing. So this is going to work only if you are working on the invoice items table, so on the items of your invoices, only with the DaDaBIK application you have created. Because of course, if those records are changed outside DaDaBIK, for example, using PHP MyAdmin or other applications, well, the hooks won't be triggered, and so this code won't be executed. Okay, so the total amount invoice at some point will be not synchronized with your actual values in the invoice items table. All right, so that's it for this episode. If you have any questions, you can post a comment or write on our forum, and see you next time. Ciao!